Welcome to the Sales Lead Dog Podcast, hosted by CRM technology and sales process expert Christopher Smith, talking with sales leaders that have separated themselves from the rest of the pack. Listen to find out how the best of the best achieve success with their team and CRM technology. And remember, unless you are the lead dog, the view never changes.
Welcome to Sales Lead Dog. My guest today is Lynn Hidy. Lynn is the founder of Inside Sales Consultants. She's a mastermind facilitator and a very experienced sales trainer. Her company is Up Your Telesales. And Lynn, I'm very excited to have her here on the show because she has a book being released tomorrow. I completely understand how much work goes into writing a book. I released my first book last February. It is a lot of work. Name of the book is Mastering Inside Sales Leadership. Lynn, tell me the genesis of the idea for the book.
So I've always had a course about inside sales leadership. So my specialty is definitely the inside sales universe. And my entire sales career has been spent in that realm. Someone asked me for some book recommendations, and I gave them. And I typically am giving books like Colleen Stanley's EI Selling for Leaders. And, right. So I'm giving these broad definition books, and they're like, well, what about for inside sales? And I stopped for a second, and there's been nothing published about inside sales leadership since before COVID.
Yeah.
And the world has completely changed.
Totally.
So that was kind of the impetus for pulling together coursework. It just happens. You'll see 12 chapters in the book because that was how many sessions I had. And it kind of follows along in how I worked with sales leaders in a training class.
That's awesome. So I like how you structured that. What was the hardest thing for you to write the book?
So I've always said I would never write a book. So I would say that the first hardest thing was letting go of the fact that I said I would never write a book and do it. The second hardest thing is, I have to say, I don't know how people wrote books before AI because it was the best research assistant I've ever had, pulling all of my own content that I've written over the last 30 years about each topic and at least having all of that as a resource. And then figuring out what to leave out, I think would be the third most difficult thing. Like, okay, that isn't distilled down enough to make it in.
Right. Yep. Yeah. For me, it was structuring the book so it's not boring. I want to make sure the readers stay engaged. That was the hardest part. I started and stopped at least 6 times over 3 years writing my book. How long did it take you to write this book?
So mine was pretty quick, but remember I had my course was already done, right? So that was the outline and the structure for the book. And then I pulled in content that I've written on each of the topics. Yep. So it was really less than a year from when I let go of the fact that I was never going to write a book and actually said I would. Committed.
So where can we find the book?
So it is on Amazon. You can get it in paperback, ebook. And if you really want to listen to me for 5.5 hours, I read the audiobook.
Oh, good for you. That's a lot of work too. That's the other thing that I didn't estimate was how much work it takes once you have the book done to actually get it published.
Yeah,
oh my gosh. That's when the real work really begins.
Well, and how about this? I was going to say, and now I have to sell it, right? That's what we do.
Exactly. Now you got to promote and sell it. Yeah. Yeah. So let's back up a bit. Tell me about your journey into sales. How did that happen?
I think I'm like a lot of people. I got here accidentally. I was a back office person. I was the office manager of a printing company long, long ago in a land far, far away when there were printing companies, right on every corner. And I ended up transitioning more into what I would call an inbound customer service kind of a role.
Yep.
And the company I was working with was like, Lynn, you should be a territory salesperson. You should. And I'm like, ooh, and I had this 1950s sleazy car salesman idea in my head of what sales was and didn't want anything to do with it. Yep. And ended up talking to some of the top salespeople. Lucky for me, top 3 salespeople at the company were women.
Oh, no kidding.
We're more than happy to have conversations with me about it. what they were doing, what they did, they thought they did differently than people that were less successful. And I'm like, all right, I think I can do this. It isn't sleazy and slimy. Yeah. And never looked back after my first commission check.
Oh, yeah. It's pretty sweet getting that first one, right?
I might even still have like the copy of it somewhere in my.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was back in the days of paper checks, right? Like,
right.
So.
What were some of the lessons you learned in that first sales role that you still carry today?
That's an interesting question, because I think that some of the lessons seem pretty simplistic. So techniques have changed, right? Mm-hmm. You know, now it's not just the telephone. We've got video, we've got social media, we've got email, we've got all these tools to use to accomplish the same thing. And that's to have a conversation with a human being like we're doing right now. Yep. And I think that not worrying about the how you got the conversation this every day in order to reach my objectives, and being willing to do, I think that the lesson was being willing to do what it took to get those conversations. Whether, at the beginning that was making a lot of phone calls. People really answered the phone too, right? Because they needed us for information. Yep. There was no internet. And so you talk to a salesperson to get information. Now they don't need us for information.
Right.
They need us for other things. So then you have to, right, again, shift the techniques you use to get those conversations and shift what those conversations are about to make yourself valuable.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a second. I had a really interesting conversation with an individual, a sales leader, I think it was a little over a week ago, and he commented, nobody calls me on the phone anymore. My phone used to ring all the time. Nobody's calling. No one's prospecting using the phone anymore. Why is that? Are we afraid to talk to people? Is it hard? What is it that's keeping us from using this incredible channel to fill our pipeline?
So I still believe that picking up the phone and calling somebody is the fastest way to get a conversation. Yeah. Number one, we now have 4 generations of people in the workforce. The younger people are, the less likely they are to use a phone as a phone, right? One of my nieces, who's in her 20s, said, Aunt Lynn, you're the only person who calls me.
Yeah.
And she's like, and you're definitely the only person that calls me without warning me first. And I'm like, what do you mean warning you first?
Yeah.
So I think generationally, that's a piece of the...
Oh, that's very true, because I know with my son, he'll be talking about a girl. I'm like, why'd you call her? I can't call her, Dad. What?
Right.
I got a Snapchat, or I got a text her, or I got to do this, or what happened to just talking to people?
And again, it's a skill as well.
Yeah.
I do think that there was a period of time when sales leaders were getting 1 million phone calls that people gave up on it because it wasn't working anymore. Right. Now, I still think it was working, but that you and I could talk about that for an hour. I also think that we think of all the reasons not to do it. Oh, well, I'm interrupting their day, or should I use their cell? Should I use their desk, their office phone? Like, what phone number do I use? What do I do? And it's paralysis by analysis.
Hey, we're taking a quick break to thank you for listening to and supporting the Sales Lead Dog podcast. I want to take a moment and tell you about my book, CRM Shouldn't Suck. If your CRM feels more like a black hole for data than something that actually helps your team sell, you're not alone. The book breaks down why CRMs fail for so many businesses and what you can do about it. No fluff, just real strategies that work. So go to crmshouldn'tsuck.com to order your free copy right now. That's right, we're giving it away. And while you're there, take 2 minutes to check out the CRM Impact Score. It's a quick diagnostic that shows you how your CRM is really performing, where it's helping you and where it's hurting you. You'll get a personalized report with clear, actionable next steps you can start right away to maximize your CRM investment. We've also got blogs, videos, and a bunch of other resources to help you finally get the results you were promised when you bought your CRM. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes of Sales Lead Dog. Okay, let's get back to this episode of the Sales Lead Dog podcast. I had a nephew, his first job out of college was inside sales. And I'm like, hey, this is great for you because you're going to get all kinds of great training. You're going to get a great foundation for starting your career in sales, because he was expected to cold call and make appointments, and he did it for about 6 months and he left. And I'm like, hey, what happened? He's like, Uncle Chris, they did not train me at all. They just threw me into the pit saying, start calling these. Why are companies still doing that? Why are they doing that instead of relying on people like you that can help them set up effective programs to actually realize value? You're spending a lot of money on this, but you're not preparing anyone for success.
Well, and how about this? It costs so much money to hire somebody. Yeah. So he came, stayed for 6 months.
Yeah.
Now you're hiring somebody to replace him who's also going to only stay for 6 months. I mean, that's insane.
It's absolutely insane to me. It blew my mind. I'm like, that's not at all what I expected. I thought they'd be smart and they'd have a really good training program and they would have best practices. And, here's what works. Here's what doesn't work. He got none of that. And
I will say that that's hopefully an anomaly, but I'm guessing that it's not, or else I would be so busy that I couldn't talk to you today. Right. So I will say that there are a lot of companies out there that are going to say, okay, here's a cadence that we know is effective. Here's messaging that we know is effective, right? And go through things. I've been asking a question in training when I do sales training. One of the things I always say is, have you ever taken a listening class? And I've been counting since 2005. So 20 years. So I've got, you're my 14th. Yes.
Yeah. I make all my consultants take an active listening class. It's a skill. And people think, I listen. I'm like, yeah, well, let's go through the class and let's find out.
And I think the other piece of it is that the number one complaint purchasers have about salespeople is we don't listen. Right. Yet companies are not training salespeople how to listen, right? They're taught how to present or how to ask questions, handle objections, right? All of these technique-y sounding things when really, again, having a conversation with another person is the key to success.
It really is. Yep. So why do companies hire you? How does that start? How does that conversation start? What are some of the things, the problems they're looking to solve when you initially engage with them?
So onboarding, they don't have, right?
Yeah.
Although I don't work with very many companies that have zero training like you described, one of the things that I'm a firm believer in is scripts. And lots of people, have all their defenses up when they hear that word.
Yeah.
But the key is you need to have your salespeople write the script that they're going to use. Now you have the outline, what the basic benefits of your product, services, everything is. But if they're not having problem knowledge rather than product knowledge conversations with people, I'll get pulled in, right? Mm-hmm. That if salespeople are getting shot down because they talk about product, service, right? The thing that the company does instead of how it helps people, I get pulled in.
Yeah. And what are some of the first things you're looking for when you engage with a client? Like, how do you assess the landscape?
So the first thing that I think every company should do is have an outside organization talk to your top 5 customers about why they buy from you. Talk to your top salespeople about what they believe makes them successful and what's different between them and the people who are less successful.
Yeah.
And then start to observe and really dig into what's generally happening out on the floor.
Right. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, before you start to change it at anything.
Yeah. We're missing quota part of that conversation? We have too many people missing quota?
Yes. The statistics are just frightening.
Yeah.
And I will say, though, we could have a whole conversation about how goals are set. That's not my forte, right? Yep. But, there was study, and I can't remember how old it is now, but it really talked to the point that if we don't fix this, we are going to be in a world of hurt. And it was like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen anything change.
Yeah.
And in fact, last year I think was harder from a sales perspective than it's been in a while.
That's my experience, is that it's not a lack of work. Like, people aren't working hard. It's not the passion or the work ethic. What do you think the issue is?
I think that we are in another realm of change. So whether we like AI, leverage AI, hate AI, it is, right? I was at a conference where they said Google, who created Google, right?
Yeah.
The search engine,
Yeah.
is not loading it on their new laptops. You don't get the search engine on your laptop. You get their AI tool on your laptop.
Yeah.
So people are not searching for answers. They're leveraging AI for answers.
Yes.
And we as salespeople, I think last year, missed that was happening. We didn't think it was going to happen as quickly as it did.
I talk about that all the time. I've had a lot of AI conversations on the show, and then just almost every sales prospect I talk to and every client we talk to them, it's AI. And there's a fundamental lack of understanding about AI. And I think it begins with a very strong lack of understanding about the pace of change that's happening with AI. And that's the first things I tell people is, look, with moving to the cloud, it took us, more than a decade. We still have some clients. I still come across clients that haven't moved to the cloud yet, but the vast majority of companies have moved to the cloud.
They're at least hybrid, right? Like something.
Or at least some portion of their business is in the cloud,
Yep.
right? And that took well over a decade for that to happen, okay? But initially, there's a huge amount like, I don't want my stuff in the cloud. What about security? There were all these reasons why not to do it. But that eroded. Those reasons eroded over time. And eventually, people are making the move. With AI, the pace is at most a 3-year window. That you have about 3 years to get this figured out and implemented within your business in a meaningful way. And it's not like, hey, I'm going to go out and get Copilot, or I'm going to get whatever, and I'm going to turn it on. That's the worst thing you can do. There's a lot of work you have to do to prepare your business for AI. And the point I make to people is, your customers are already using it, or they're calling you.
But they're using it, and if you're not leveraging it,
yes,
you've got a problem. I will say, and it's interesting because someone said to me, right, don't you think inside sales is going to go away because of AI? And I quoted a paraphrase. This is my paraphrase. So in 2023, I spoke at a tech conference in Montreal, and the woman who spoke before me, Lynn's English translation is, AI is not going to take your job. Someone who knows how to use AI is going to take your job.
Yes.
And if you are not leveraging it as a tool, I mean, I used it earlier, right? I'm on a call with somebody. We ask a question. The answer was, I don't do that. This person does. We get their contact information. In AI, I said, take everything you know about the work we've done with this client and write an intro email to this person, job title, about this.
Yes.
All right. Was it good? Well, I also have master prompt stuff. So great, with all the stuff I train about how to write an email. But all right, instead of me sitting there collating all the information about the work we had done together, I had a 2-sentence synopsis that I then, of course, modified.
Exactly. It's a tool.
It is a tool.
That increases my ability to sell. It speeds things up to where I can focus on what adds value versus the things that are drudgery or that slow me down. That's how you have to look at AI.
A woman that I know, Sonia Dumas, said it's assisted intelligence.
Yes.
Use it where you need assistance.
Yes.
So if you're really good, if you can write, like I can write a pretty good email, but I can edit
way faster,
better than I can write.
Yes.
So, okay, write my first draft. Now I'm going to edit it.
So I'm the same way. Like it could take me half an hour to write a really good email with, especially if I have to collate a bunch of information and all that. And I'm looking at stuff and I'm figuring out if I can have AI do that in 30 seconds and then I spend 15 minutes editing, it's going to be way better than if I spend half an hour trying to write it.
And if you write, and we can use AI language, right? If you create an agent that every salesperson who works on your team has this is your research agent.
Yes.
And the prompt is already written. So you're not creating salespeople who are great prompt writers. You give them the prompt.
Yes. That's what we're talking about, is that especially if you have a lot of product complexity, a lot of different things. We've had clients that they have 100,000 products in their product catalog. How is a salesperson going to be able to even come close to keeping track of all that? And so there's ways they could benefit a customer, but there's just no way. But if I have an AI agent that is completely trained on our products and I'm saying, hey, here's the characteristics of what, our customer's looking for. What do we have? What are some recommendations I can make to them? It's giving me that starting point.
Yep. I will tell you that Dell took all of their tech specs internally.
Yeah.
So if you call Dell for tech support, they are using an AI agent that is searching every piece of technical information that Dell has ever had.
Yes. It's amazing how that enables the customer experience.
Yeah.
That's what we're about here, is that's where you can leverage AI, is to make us look a whole lot smarter than we actually are. Because I have access, speed of access.
Yep.
And a much more robust picture.
And back to the whole conversation, you are having the value of a conversation with you based on that information. A customer doesn't have time to go out and do that work themselves. Right. And they don't have access to the level of detail that you have internally at your company, right? All of those things are true. And all of those things become value and a reason to talk to you. And pick up a reason to answer when you call and they pick up the phone, a reason to accept your meeting.
Yeah. Let's shift back to some of the things you cover in the book. Tell me a story about how you were by enabling your clients to shift from product talk to problem talk, really enables them to drive, positive outcomes as, doing their role as inside sales.
I think the key there is that what ends up happening is if you are listening for the problems that people are facing, it's really hard to object to fixing something that's broken. Right. It's super easy, and I'll use myself it's easy to say no to sales training. Yeah. It's really difficult to say no to increased numbers of salespeople hitting quota. Would you like to have a higher percentage of your sales team hitting quota every month? I've yet to meet a sales leader that says, no, I'm good. Yeah. So if you start delivering a message that's about the problems your customers are facing, you change the dynamic. Yes. And so your customer that has hundreds of thousands of products, the solution is going to be different depending on what the root cause of the problem really is, right? So if I start talking about problems and you talk about, we can't get anything delivered on time. Well, what's the impact of that on your business? And you start telling me, and they're like, well, can you deliver faster? The answer should always be, I don't know. Let's talk more. Yeah. Because I can deliver some things faster, but I don't know if I can deliver what you need faster or what's faster. Like if you're getting delivery tomorrow, no, I might not be able to deliver today. Yeah. But if someone else is 12 weeks and you have stock and you can get it to them this week, right? You need to ask more questions before you start pitching anything.
And you have to listen to those responses. I had a guest on the podcast a couple of years ago by the name of Dale Merrill. And he is a leader at Franklin Covey. And they did a study where they actually went out with salespeople on their calls. And at the end of the call, they interviewed the salesperson about how do you think it went? And then they interviewed the people they were meeting with. How did you think the meeting went? complete disconnect between the salespeople and their audience. And I really believe the root of this is the salespeople, besides being very optimistic and rose-colored glasses, they're not good at listening, And so how do you recommend us as sales leaders? How do you recommend, besides I want you to take a listening class, that's where you start, but what do I do next to build this skill amongst my teams to really become great listeners?
So I would say the first thing to do is to encourage salespeople to put themselves on mute, whether they're on video calls or they're on the telephone, every time they answer. So if I ask you a question, my instant next step is to mute myself on every sales call that I am on. Because even the seconds of me reaching down to my mouse and unclicking mute, I have to tell you, people will start talking again.
It's our nature, right? We want to show how smart we are, that, hey, I can help you. I've got ideas.
And then always ask a question about their answer.
Oh, I like that. To really keep it going, that you're not just jumping in. It's let's go a little bit deeper, right? Is that your goal?
Yes, and find out more about the thing.
Right.
Don't go on to your solution before you've really dug in.
Yep. So I had a guy reach out to me today. It's really interesting. We have a webinar coming up about, how bad data really is crippling your CRM and the effectiveness of your CRM. We see it all the time. We do a lot of rescues in my business. And the first thing we look at is their state of their data. We've yet to come across one where it's like you were saying, oh no, we didn't need help with data. We're good there. Nobody ever says that to us, right? And so he responded back saying, oh my gosh, we need help with this. Our data is garbage. And so, some people might say, okay, well, let's just jump right in. Here's how we can fix your data problems. I want to know, how's this impacting your business? What's the actual impact of this? How's it impacting your team? How's it impacting your customers? I want to start quantifying some stuff for me, because what else? I want to be able to spread the conversation out, right? And let's go a little bit deeper, because usually if data's a problem, there's other things. If I start peeling back the onion, I'm going to cover other things, right?
Right. Why does he think the data is garbage?
Right.
What's happening that shows him that that's true?
Yeah.
It's really interesting that sometimes sales leaders are not really necessarily looking at the root cause of what's going on as well from a sales perspective. So there's a woman named Hannah Rudstrom at Cornell University, and I use her methodology because she's way smarter than me. But it's can't, won't, don't know how.
Right.
So when you're looking at a problem and it's a salesperson, right, is it a can't? They truly, it's a bad fit. They cannot do what you need them to do. Or maybe an organizational can't, you have a roadblock someplace. One of my customers, the roadblock was they had 50 salespeople and 4 product engineers. So of course, the salespeople could not get a product engineer on the phone to save their lives, right?
Yeah.
So that's an organizational version of a can't.
Yep.
There's a roadblock stopping people from doing what you want them to do. There's won't, which is I'm capable and I know how, but I'm not doing it. Yeah. The only thing that's going to help you there is coaching them, which also means you need to figure out, are they coachable?
Yes. Yeah.
And then the last one, don't know how. That's the only thing my training program from me is going to fix, right? That they literally do not know how to do something. They need a technique. They need a system. They need a structure. They need something that they do not know how to do. And a lot of times people will throw training at a won't problem. And listening tends to be a won't problem. To bring us back around to, that idea of, okay, how do we fix a product versus problem? You have to listen. How do you fix listening? Figure out why they're not listening.
Right. Right. Why do prospects resist change even when the solution makes perfect sense for them?
I believe that people need to have 3 things available to make any change: the brain power to think about it, the time to do it, and the money to spend on it. If any one of those things is missing, they're going to push back on something they know is going to help. Sometimes purely because, okay, I'm going to have to onboard a new vendor. That's going to take me months. I don't have months. Or I've had people say, but what if this doesn't work either? Then I'd spend all of this extra effort.
Yeah. What's your response when you have people like that? Because a lot of that's emotional.
Oh, how about this? That is all emotional, right?
Yeah.
So I do think it's important to figure out which of those things are missing, right? Is it the time or is it the brain power? I mean, I don't know about you, but if something's going on where I'm thinking about something else and I don't have time to focus on the thing, you're just not going to, you need to figure that out as the salesperson, that's what's happening. Yeah. I had somebody call me on December 18th. December 19th was my last day of work for this year, for last year. Yeah. What do you think I was doing on the 18th? Thinking about new stuff? There was not going to, these are the things I need to get done before Friday afternoon when I'm flying out on Saturday, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that poor salesperson got none of my attention. I had zero brain power they might have had the best idea in the universe. Right. If they had said, wow, it sounds like you're in the middle of something, I would have said, yeah, tomorrow's my last day for the year. I just don't have the ability to have this conversation with you. I would have taken a meeting for this week. Oh, can I put 15 minutes on your calendar? Yeah, let's do it Friday. That'll give me time to make sure that I'm,
decks are cleared and I'm ready. We're afraid. Sometimes people are afraid to make that ask, right? That they're like, oh, I'm being shy. I'm being reticent. What's blocking us from making the ask?
I think the thing that's blocking us from making the ask is believing that someone resisting having a conversation with us is rejecting us as a human. Long ago in our conversation, you said, what was something you learned early on in sales? Someone said to me, if you don't want your feelings hurt, don't bring them to work. And I have to tell you, I think I've made a lot of money because I believed them. And that doesn't mean I don't get sometimes emotionally tied up in things, because I certainly would be lying if I said that was true. But on a cold call, you don't know me yet. Yeah. If you had said no to this podcast, does that mean I'm a horrible person and you don't like me as a human being?
Oh, heck no.
No, it wouldn't. No. It would have meant that what we would talk about wasn't right for your audience, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I have people too that I know they're scared to come on the podcast. And so a lot of times I'll ask them, we can tell by how they respond. I'm like, are you nervous? Please don't be nervous. So you'll have a wonderful time, and because there's some people and other people are like, I'm not worthy of being on a podcast, which that also blows my mind. Like, you're incredibly successful. Why would you think you're not worthy? But, you have to try to understand where people are coming from, what's going on. And some people are just flat out not interested. Like, nope, not interested. That's fine too.
Right. And I think that, right. And in sales, we need to understand that there are going to be people that are not flat out not interested. There are going to be people that aren't really sure. There are going to be people that are excited, but a bad fit. That's almost worse, right?
Yep.
Every salesperson I ever trained, I'll say, hey, have you ever done all the work to earn a customer and then really wished you hadn't? And I've never met a salesperson that didn't raise their hand and be like,
oh, yeah.
And they could usually name the person in the company, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And what happened?
Yeah. Oh, that happens all the time. You're like, oh, my God, I know this client's going to be a total, do we really want them as a client, And that, you have to decide. Let's shift gears here a little bit. There's a topic I really want to talk to you about. And that's your involvement in Women Sales Experts. Tell me about that organization.
So Women Sales Experts, actually, there's a woman named Jill Conrath who years and years ago would tell you that, she was a sales expert, a trainer, public speaker, and she still was always having to explain, why, what do you do? Why sales? Oh, that's, right. She put together a public program, and a whole bunch of women sales experts came, all spoke at this conference. And then the day after the conference, she had them stay. And she's like, this is our after party, right? This is us not having to explain who we are and what we do.
Right.
And it was an amazing experience. I actually invited myself, but that's a story for another day. I was corporate trainer at that point. And the next year, she did it again. And then the next year, there was no public program. It was just a bunch of women, all who did sales training, consulting, and speaking, getting together and talking about best practices. And we've morphed over the years, and now we're a not-for-profit organization that's, membership-based and membership criteria and a board of directors. And we're elevating the women who coach and train and speak and consult about sales. That
is terrific. I love that you're doing that. I try to find as many women sales leaders as I can to have on the podcast. And I tell them, like, I have a daughter and I have nieces that are in sales, and I want them to have a path. I want them to have support. I want them to have success and opportunity, and not have that reaction of, ooh, you're in sales. Sales is an incredible career,
It's
absolutely
amazing.
Incredible career, So it's like, let's do what we can, right? So thank you for sharing that with us. We're at our time here on Sales Lead Dog.
Oh my goodness.
So fast. Lynn, I've really enjoyed talking with you. Again, the book is Mastering Inside Sales Leadership. You can get that on Amazon.
Yeah.
Be sure to check that out. Lynn, if people want to connect with you, if they want to learn more about what you're doing at Up Your Telesales, what's the best way for them to reach out and connect with you?
I'm going to say LinkedIn is always great, right? It was created by salespeople for salespeople. So please connect with me there. Tell me you heard me on the podcast, though. If you just send a random request I may or may not accept, let me know you heard Chris and I talking and why you think connecting's a good idea. Because Chris and I both want to know that. What was valuable about the podcast. The other place is masteringinsidesalesleadership.com is the book's website. You can check it out there. If you're not quite ready to buy a book, there is an excerpt. And I would love to have you join my community.
That is awesome. If you didn't catch any of that, no worries. We've got you covered. Just go to impellercrm.com/sales lead dog, where you'll get not only this episode, but all the 160 plus episodes we have of Sales Lead Dog. We'll have all Lynn's information in the show notes. So be sure to reach out and connect with her. Go ahead and order that copy of your book. Even if you're not, one thing I've learned from talking with people like you, Lynn, even if hey, I'm not a sales leader over inside sales, I can always learn stuff from reading books like this. There are always nuggets in there that I can glean. So be sure to check that book out. Check out the website. Lynn, thank you so much for coming on the show, and welcome to the Sales Lead Dog Pack.
Chris, it was great fun. We probably could have talked for another 2 hours.
Oh, but nobody listens on podcasts.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, unless you're like celebrity gossip or something like that, they stop after a little while, but it's been great, Lynn. Thank you.
As we end this discussion on Sales Lead Dog, be sure to subscribe to catch all our episodes. On social media, follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Watch the videos on YouTube, and you can also find our episodes on our website at impellercrm.com/Sales Lead Dog. Sales Lead Dog is supported by Impeller CRM, delivering objectively better CRM for business, guaranteed.